What's the point?
So I think we are now streaming. So when you're ready, Chairman.
Good evening, fellow councillors, and good evening to everybody live on YouTube. Welcome to full council on the 26th of January. Moving on to item 1. Any apologies or any absences?
Yes, I've had apologies for absence from Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Kennedy and Councillor Rohim.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 2, any declarations of interest from any of the members? I take it that Councillor Bedford.
Just the same as last week, to raise people's attention to the fact that I live on Newton Lees, and there is an item on Newton Lees, but I don't think it's will affect my judgment and things like that. So I'll still be voting on it.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kenworthy. Councillor Kenworthy.
Right. On George Street, I won't be discussing anything.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Kelly Wilson.
So a couple of things. I of course live in Newton Lees. I do have some things to put forward on behalf of the community for the item. So, but I wouldn't be impacted directly by them. I think it was something that would affect all residents. So we'll speak on that item. And also there is a licensing matter on the agenda, or something for a licensed premise on the agenda. I am a personal license holder in which has been authorised by Milton Keynes Council, but I'm not attached to a premises in Milton Keynes, so I will still vote.
I also am a personal licence holder. I am a licence holder in Milton Keynes. Just to bring that to your attention, I have no pecuniary interest in Fenny Stratford. So I will take a judgment on that. Is that okay, Delia?
Yes, thank you, Chair. That's fine. Thank you. I've noted that and it'll be in the minutes.
Okay. Anybody else? So moving on to item 3 on the agenda, to approve the minutes of previous meetings. So we're looking at the finance meeting on the 12th of January, Tuesday, 12th of January, the finance meeting. Does the chair want to speak to anybody on that side of things?
Can I interrupt? We're actually looking at the minutes of the last full council meeting, which was on the 19th. There was an extraordinary meeting of council on the 19th of January, and it's those minutes that you're looking at. Agenda item 3, page 1.
Page 1. Okay.
Yeah, page 1 through to page 4. Those are the minutes you're looking at, first of all.
So, all right, okay. So the minutes of full council on the 19th of January.
So they're for approval, Chair.
Has anybody got anything to say on page 1? Page 2? 3? And 4? So that's no comment from any of the members. So yes, Delia, that will be there for approval.
Thank you, sir. Chairman. And the finance.
You've just gone on to mute, Delia.
You muted.
Sorry about that. The finance committee minutes that are the next document in the pack, they are forming part of agenda item 4. because we've already noted those minutes. The agenda item 5, sorry. So we've already noted those finance minutes. They're just there to inform the debate on the budget and also to pick up a recommendation that wasn't addressed on the last occasion. So the next item is public speaking.
So, next item on the agenda, item 4 on the agenda, is for public speaking. Have we got anybody for public speaking?
No, nobody's made any representations or asked to attend and speak at the meeting.
Moving on to item 5 on the agenda, to approve the budget for 2021-2022, and also consideration of recommendations from the last meeting of the finance meeting held on the 12th of January. Can I open this up to the Chair of Finance, Keith? Take this up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The minutes of the last Finance Committee, there were a number of recommendations to full council. However, only one of them needs to be resolved by council today, in as much as all the other items are in fact contained within the budget. And the only item that is still to be put to the council is on page 8, that it was resolved to recommend to full council that in future any policy decisions about new services must take into account the impact on precept, and decisions to begin new activities should include in the decision a resolution to precept for these services. And a decision is required, Chair.
Has everybody had a look at the minutes? Draft budget.
No, this item, Chair, is the members need to vote now on whether they will accept that resolution from Finance.
It was a recommendation. The minutes were noted last time, but the recommendation wasn't voted on the last occasion. So it needs to be voted on tonight, please. So a recommendation from the committee.
Have we had the recommendation from the committee?
Yes, it's in the minutes and it was considered on the last occasion. So it's on. Would you like me to read it again to remind you? It's to recommend to council that. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. It was resolved to recommend to full council that in future any policy decisions about new services must take into account the impact on precept, and decisions to begin new activities should include in the decision a resolution to precept for these services.
So can we take a vote on that recommendation?
Chair, I should really be using electronic hand, so apologies for that. Just a bit of a debate on this item, actually. I don't think we should be supporting this recommendation as a full council. I think it ties us into looking at our finances in a very, very specific way. And whilst I do agree that when we do look at introducing new items, we do need to consider the finances of the council and how that service will be financed. This policy just seems to tie us to only looking at the precept only, and therefore I wouldn't be supportive of this recommendation.
Okay, thank you for that. Right now we are here to sort of like vote on this recommendation, although it's noted what you've said. So all in favour of this recommendation, can we all in favour?
Seven, eight.
Anybody against? So can you all lower your hands, please? Those that.
Yeah, if you could lower your hands, if you were in, just so I'm sure that we've just got the people who are against. So we appear to have 2 votes against. Is that correct?
Against
Marie as well.
Marie, 3.
Okay, can you lower your hands? And any abstentions? No, Gary can move.
There's one abstention, so that's carried, Chair.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. So we then come to the item on 5, which is consideration of the budget. Can I just run through the way I was going to present this to you, so that each item comes up, and so that everything can be discussed by the full council. Now, all the data and all the information that we're going to use tonight is contained in the published documents, i.e. in the agenda. So there's nothing new, it's all there and you've got the lot. Now the summary of the budget for next year is shown on page 37. So you've got that. All the reserves are shown on pages 39 and 40. All earmark reserves is just that, which is money reserved for specific purposes. And under no circumstances is section 106 or Sport England money available. Now the budget by cost centres starts at page 11 and goes on to page 16. And there are 29 separate cost centres. Budget details, detailed budget is shown for each cost centre starting at page 17 and goes on to page 32. So each summary of the budget is a single line basically, but all the detail, how that line is made up, is contained on those detailed sheets. Now the budget notes prepared by Delia and the staff are shown on pages 33 to 36. In other words, it's explanation of how we got to where we are. Now, what I'm proposing is to go through the budget by cost centres. If no comment offered by members, then I shall take that as agreement to the budget as proposed. So in other words, if you've got a comment to make about any particular budget head, raise it and we will then discuss it and if necessary, go to a vote. Now, is that acceptable to members? Is anyone against that?
Chair.
Okay, then the last part of it is that having agreed the detail, we can then go to the general discussion and go into the use of reserves and vote on the overall budget. So that's the last thing we will do, is a vote on the budget. We then automatically move into item 6, which is where we actually give us an item for setting of the precept with consideration of the use of reserves and or the level of the precept. So the use of reserves and the how much, whether the precept should stay the same, go up or down, is for item 6. Now, is that okay for everyone, or is there any comment around that?
Keith, I think Delia's got a hand up. I think she wants to come in.
Delia, sorry, Delia. Yep.
That's all right. Yeah, I think two things. Firstly, I'd like to point out there is an error in the budget papers on the Spotlight cost centre, which is cost centre 120. It's just in the projection, so it's not in the budget itself. It's just in the projection for this year's spend. And there was a keying error when my colleague updated the projections, which was only spotted today. So it looks as though we're expecting revenue of £10,000 in Spotlight, and actually we're not expecting any revenue. So the budget is, I think, £9,000 adrift. So the projected outcome for this current year is showing £9,000 more in the underspend than we actually believe will be the case. And then I've also had a question in the chat about who is chairing the meeting. I probably should have explained earlier on that Councillor Kennedy is unable to attend, and therefore Councillor Graham is chairing, but Councillor Lee has been asked to lead on the budget item, if that clarifies things.
Okay, thank you, Delia. Right, can we then start on page 11 of the budget, which starts off as community grants. Community grants at 23,000. Does anyone wish to comment on that? Okay, thank you. The next item is democratic services, 16,100. Any comment on that one? No, thank you. Next one is planters, £1,000. Any comment? Thank you. Next one is youth work at £15,000. Any comment? Thank you. Next one, dog bins, at 17,250. Any comment? No, thank you. The last one on this page, senior youth club, £30,000. Any comment? No, thank you, Ray. Page 12 we're on to now. Spotlight. With the revision that Delia's mentioned for income this year, but the figure for next year is 10,720. Any comment on that one? No, thank you. Precept grant. The grant, 68,482. Well, that's a matter of fact. The next one is bandstand at a figure of 1,150. Any comment? No, thank you. Community engagement at 20,400. Now that is item 302. Delia, did you have a comment on 302?
Yes, I'd like to. I'd like to ask Jill, to speak to this one, please.
The community engagement at the last full council meeting, there was a proposal with regards to the community communication strategy, and you asked for some indicative costs to be put forward. Going through all the recommendations from the company, some of which can be covered quite easily internally. There would be, and these are just very rough because there's not a lot, we haven't been able to do a lot of procurement work. But in order to do obviously this cost of the website, we have no idea what that's going to be, but there's a suggestion that could come from reserves, but it could be anything between £5,000 and £10,000. We don't know yet at the moment. But there will be some annual costs if we carried out all the recommendations, and these would be up to about £10,000 a year. So the annual survey would be anything up to £2,500, depending on how many responses we get if we did it on obviously paper. Increasing our Facebook boostings and our awareness on there could be up to £1,200 a year. Quarterly newsletter, should we go back to a printed newsletter, would be just over £5,000 a year. And then some software to support the staff in the social media scheduling would be at just about £600 a year. And then obviously there would be website ongoing costs as well as an annual figure, but again, until we know what the cost of the website is, we don't know what they are. So if we choose to do all the recommendations from the report, we are looking at least £10,000 per year that would need to be added as a coming out of a community engagement budget.
Thank you very much, Jill. Thank you for that.
there is already, if I may speak, please, Chair. There is already 20,000 in the community engagement budget. From memory, 2,000 of that is spoken for on events. So that should be adequate. Is that correct, Jill? Yeah. So that budget should be adequate as it is.
So no extra is required into the budget for next year.
No, not as I understand it. Is that correct, Jill?
You're muted, Jill.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. So.
Sorry, Chief. I think we've got Ed, Councillor Hume.
I do beg your pardon, Ed. I missed you.
I think that kind of answers my question, because I was going to ask about the fact that we've already got, if we looked at the detailed version of this cost centre, there's money already allocated for stationery, which I believe was for leaflets and for distribution. So it sounds like actually it's good to know it's all been covered in the current budget.
Okay. Right. So community engagement at 20,400. Is that agreed? Okay. Thank you. The next one is Christmas lights overhead expenditure at 31,100. Any comments on that one? No, thank you. The next one is Christmas event, and that goes over onto page 13 at 12,620. Any comment on that one? Thank you. Next one is Albert Street toilets at 39,320. Any comment on that one? Ethan.
Chairman, we've had a previous conversation, both at Finance Committee and a previous meeting, about the toilets. I continue in my view that the toilets are currently unsustainable. It would be better for us to have one of those self-cleaning toilets. It might be a large capital investment to put into the town centre, but actually in terms of maintenance, our costs would reduce over the long term, and for us to be spending 5% in direct costs of our total budget or over that is, in my view, wrong. And of course, that does not take into account any indirect costs of our staff team who have to deal with the said toilets. Thank you.
Ethan, do you wish to put an amendment forward?
So it is. So I'm more than happy to hear if other councillors to debate that, but I do have a proposal that I would like to put forward to amend that budget item. But perhaps it would be better to let other councillors have their piece first. Okay,
thank you, Ethan. Anyway, any other councillors want to comment?
I would want to, can I just say, can I hear the proposal so we can debate the proposal for amendment rather than wait for that proposal? I think it's better to debate something where we know what we're debating.
Okay, thank you. I'm proposing that we conduct a consultation with the community on whether they value the toilets more or they value other areas of our budget more. So we really want to increase our well-being activity in the community. It's likely that in the future that that this will need to kind of increase. It's likely that we'll need to increase our services provided to youth and community. So on that basis, I wish to give us 6 months in the budget to conduct such a consultation, but to withdraw the toilets in 6 months' time if we are unable to find any income from any other sources to mitigate some of these costs. And I think in terms of the consultation, to be really clear, I'm not asking the public whether they want the toilets closed. the consultation is the toilets are unsustainable. Do you think that we should continue to fund these costs, which are unsustainable, or do you think we should spend this money on things that are more important to the community?
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder for that proposal?
We've got, sorry, Chair. And we've got Ron Haynes that wants to speak.
Yeah, well, I need a seconder for a proposal first. Is there a seconder to the proposal? Eamon? Yeah, okay. Eamon seconding it. Right, I've got Ron first.
Can you hear me okay, guys? Can you hear me okay, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, as Ethan said, you know, we need to get more money through. And I've spoken to some West Bletchley councillors, and one of them said to me, how much do we give you? And I said, it's £1,000. And they said, what's that, a month? I said, no, a year. And they said, well, that's not much, is it? So I believe we may, I'm not saying we will, but I believe we may get more from West Bletchley Council if we approach them. And I believe other people spoke to other councillors, I don't know. You know, that's all I wanted to say. The money might be out there if we go after it. Okay,
thank you, Ron. Gary, next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to support Ethan on his proposals. What we're talking about here is not have no toilets, but because of dilapidation and capital costs, it is unsustainable because of the bill. And about twice before over the last year or two in different groups, I put forward we should have one of those steam cleaning French types of devices, begins with the word PI, etc. And those are actually very good. And that would be a much better solution than having the old unsustainable dilapidated toilet. So I completely back Ethan. It's just I'd like the wording about the going forward solution to be slightly different. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Terry, next, please.
Thank you, Keith. I agree with what Gary's just said, actually. I want to know what the alternative is. It's fine if you're going to put proposals saying you're going to shut it in 6 months, but what's the alternative?
Right. Now, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a number of issues with the amendment. First of all, I don't disagree that it is a huge cost on this council, and it's a big cost. My concern is with the approach that we are potentially going to be taking with this. There's clearly a need. We know that there's a lot of people in normal times who use these toilets, and so they are a valuable service to residents in both our parish and those who visit our parish and our town centre. One of my concerns is, so I think I don't like how we're potentially framing the consultation as either or. I think what we need to do is we need to consultation to include what the alternative is, and against the current provision, that might mean we need to have some investigation by officers about other alternatives to toilets, and it to be potentially framed in that way. The savings from a new way of doing it will provide us with more money to spend on wellbeing services, and that's possibly a fair way for consultation. But I don't want to tie down what that consultation should be this evening. I think we need to see what the alternatives could be. I think we also need to consider actually there's a lot of change going on. We've got the Town Steel Fund, which we don't necessarily know what the details are for this area of the town centre. That's still being worked up, and then will be worked up as as that progresses the town's fund, and therefore actually we might be suggesting things that may not be suitable or may not work with the future plans for the town centre. So I think we need to consider it in that wider sense. So I'm not necessarily in support of consultation until we have more information. And also, I think it's worth saying I have spoken to West Bletchley councillors who are in favour of offering their support to these toilets. But I'm deeply, but I also want to say that the rates are also an interesting conversation. It's went through its second reading in the House of Lords, so it's been through the House of Commons, and that will mean that from April 2020, it will be backdated. The public conveniences will no longer be liable for rates, or to that effect is the legislation. It's a bit more complicated than that in the actual thing. So we kind of still need that in the budget because we will be expecting to pay that. but at some point that the expectation to pay that will be gone, and we will get hopefully some backdated money on the rates. So I think the costs going forward will change, and I think we just need to be aware of that. My other concern is around the consultation. We haven't carried out the consultation, so we're making a decision that we will cut the toilets in 6 months when we don't know what the cost of the alternatives is. We haven't asked the public, we haven't done the consultation, and we're predetermining the decision, the outcome of the consultation. And I think that is the wrong way about doing consultation. I think it's dishonest to the public. So I think with all of that, I wouldn't be supporting the amendment, and I think we should continue with the budget as is, with work this year to review the use of the toilets and the options, and that to include consultation.
Right. Delia, do you want to come in at the stage?
Well, now might not be the right moment for me to comment on
Okay.
what I was going to say, but I do want to remind everybody that what's on the agenda is agreeing the budget. So that the issue that we've got in front of us is the amount to put in the budget for the toilets.
Yep. Okay. Sam.
Hiya. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Ed, what he said. I don't think we should shut the toilets in 6 months. We need a full consultation and the alternative for that. So I agree with Ed. I'm against what's been put forward. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Someone disappeared. Aisha, did you want to come in? Only your hand has disappeared.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we've been talking about toilets for a while now, and I think we should have done a consultation before it came to the budget and made a decision, because now we have to make a decision around those toilets. Those toilets have been there for a very long time, but we also need to understand that they're not being used for good reasons. You know, there's a lot of things that go on I live in Bletchley, I see it all the time. So to come up with an alternative, we should have done that before, now that we're making decisions on the budget, because either now we either stay open for another 6 months, or we say we're going to close them. But the alternative would be what Kelly Wilson said, is to come up with an alternative. We could even think, like in London, they have those toilets that you pay 20p. That's bringing money back to the parish. You know, we're giving something to the community, not closing them totally, but also bringing money back into the parish for it to be maintained, so it self-runs itself. So I think if we are going to do a consultation and ask the public what they want, we need to hurry up and do it pretty soon, because with the way things are going, the budget needs to be kind of like moving forward, because there's lots need to be done within Bletchley, within our parish.
Thank you very much, Aisha. Ethan, I'll come back to you at the end to sum up on your motion. Okay. Just a comment from myself. I'm in favour of closing the toilets completely without consultation. I don't think we can afford them. If you're consulting on something that you can't afford, consultation in those circumstances is not viable. That's Ethan. I'll ask you now to summarise, please.
Thank you for kind of lots of points. I agree with some of the councillors' views that this is something that should have happened before now. I've been talking about these toilets every year for the last 5 years since 2016. Not just me, many other councillors. For whatever reason, it's never progressed to a consultation, because we think we're going to get income from other councils or from local businesses. It's never happened. It's become unsustainable. Obviously, I don't take some of the comments that have been said personally, but I do not agree that entering into a consultation and giving people choices between different services of the council is not doing any good consultation. I also do not agree that it's dishonest, because actually it's completely honest. These toilets are inaffordable. We have asked for the last 5 years for other people to contribute, and the amount of contribution that we get from other councils is £1,000. We have businesses in Bletchley that rely on the use of these toilets for their customers, and they don't want to contribute to them either. So I do not believe that this council should be, in regard of these toilets, the funder of last resort. They're unsustainable, and I also believe that we need to deal with this difficult issue now.
Okay, Aisha, that completes it, I'm afraid. You've already spoken once, and Ethan was summing up on his motion. So what it is that those in favour of the motion, can they show their hands, please? That's 7, 4.
7.
Can you all take your hands out now, please? Now, those against? 6.
7, I think.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.
I've got 5.
No, because Marie as well.
Who?
Sam, Gavin, Ron, Terry, Ed, and Marie. Marie keeps putting the...
Yeah, mine, even though I'm using the thing that you said, it still keeps flicking off.
It still keeps flicking off.
Oh, does it? I do beg your pardon, Marie.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 6. So that motion is carried. So the budget is reduced by 20,105, which was the figure that was in the proposal from finance on the 12th of January. So that's minus 20,105. Right.
Sorry. May I just speak again, please? Now we seem to have finished that. I just need to. I spoke at the beginning of the meeting to indicate that there was an error in the budget, and I've since received information from my colleague who is watching this on YouTube, and she's pointed out that it's not an error in the budget and it wasn't a keying error. It is correct. The forecast is correct. I had forgotten, and so had Jill, that we have received a grant against Spotlight, which is what the Spotlight income is. So the information I gave you at the beginning of the meeting was incorrect. That projection figure is the one that we anticipate, and I apologise very heartily for assuming that my colleague had made an error when in fact it was Jill and I who had leapt to an assumption there. So my apologies.
Thank you, Delia. Thank your member of staff as well.
Will do.
Apologies is fully accepted. Can we then now move on to Sam? Did you want to speak? All right. Okay. Right. Item allotments and community orchard. At 15,170. Any comment? No, thank you. War Memorial at £600. Any comment? No, thank you. The chapel at £5,000. Any comment? Ethan.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify what this £5,000 was for. Is it for an expenditure that we're thinking of, or actually is it something that should be funded from the property reserve?
No, it's ongoing security and maintenance. It's the security system and the electricity and the utilities.
Thank you.
So it's regular costs.
Yeah, it's shown on page 23, Ethan, for the detail. Okay. Right. No, so any comment on the chapel? £5,000. No, thank you. Manor Road lockup at £500. Any comment? No, thank you. Page 14 we're on now. George Street at 21,900. Any comment? No, thank you. Professional fees at 4,400. Any comment? No, thank you. Community Infrastructure Fund at 6,300. Any comment? No, thank you. Community Project Stroke Services at £34,000. Any comment on that one? No, thank you. Wellbeing at 24,300. Any comment? Well, I'd like to make a comment because I am not in favour of the public swimming. I'm in favour of the other expenditure, but the £13,500 on free swimming, I'm opposed to, and therefore I would propose that we remove £13,500 from the budget. Do I have a seconder for that first? If there's no seconder, that goes no further.
Can I raise a point of order on this?
Yes, certainly.
So a decision was made in December regarding the free swimming, and that was to offer that service. It is less than 6 months since that decision has been made, and therefore we are essentially this proposal is looking at that decision again and bringing it to the council again, and therefore for it to be discussed, we would need to have the standing orders would need to be considered.
Right, fair enough.
I believe that to be correct. I believe that what you would need to do is, first of all, if you wish to reopen this decision, you would need to first take a vote, satisfy yourselves that there's a good enough reason to reopen this decision.
Right. Then the motion will be to suspend standing orders purely to discuss this one item. I'll propose it on the grounds that it is a substantial sum of money on our budget, and now that we know the budget position, it therefore becomes current. Is there a seconder to my proposal? No, then that falls. Sorry.
You got.
Okay, Ethan. I was looking for the blue. I was looking to put a hand on the participants. So, are you coming in, Ethan?
Oh, second.
Oh, right. Thank you. Councillor
Hume wants to speak.
Yeah, Ed.
Yeah, I would like to speak on this proposal to suspend standing orders and the reasons for doing so. At the time of the December meeting, we had a paper in front of us which detailed the cost. We also had in those papers details of the budget. So to say that councillors were not aware of the issues around the budget is inaccurate. The information was presented, and councillors who had read their papers would have been aware of the budget situation and the impact that would potentially have on reserves and the predicted underspend this year as well. So I believe councillors were fully informed of that of the makings of that decision, and therefore I do not think we should be suspending standing orders because there's no new information to this.
Right. Gavin.
Sorry. I also think we need to consider the broader issue of public trust in the council, in the sense that this is something, as I'm just sort of backing up what Ed said, and the idea that councillors were aware this was something that was put forward to us by the public as well. It wasn't something we just brought up out of nowhere. People came on and spoke to us about it. And again, as Ed said, the information hasn't changed. We had a detailed report from the clerks. We had the same budget as before, so I don't really understand how this can be justified.
Right, thank you, Gavin. Ron?
Yeah, sorry, Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both the previous councillors that it was there in black and white, and all councillors could see what was there. And this is something the public asked for. It's not come off of a council's flamboyant idea. So this is what we're here to do. Is what the public want. And I know that a lot of the public wouldn't understand finances and that, but this don't seem to be a lot of money, and this seems to be what we really need to do for our local people. You know, they were disappointed when it was taken away. I can understand why it was taken away in the past, but I can't understand why no one wants to put it forward now, even though it's a small cost, because I don't think the money we're putting in there, it will be used anyway, personally speaking. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Right. Ethan, you take.
Thank you. Just want to say...
Sorry, Councillor Weimer wished to speak. Sorry. I think she was missed.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to agree with all of the three just spoken, but also to put in, I know that some of us are new councillors, but I don't want to be seen to be agreeing on stuff and then we're going back on it, because again, the trust in the public, and it doesn't look good on the town council either to be agreeing stuff and then going back on what we've just said. And again, what Mr. Haynes just said a minute ago, I can't see us using that full amount of money anyway under the current situation. I would think it's probably more likely to be more from the summer onwards anyway. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Marie. Ed. Sorry, Ethan. Sorry.
You have nothing to say.
Yeah. No, sorry, Ed.
So, first of all, I'd just like to say to all councillors, so I understand the kind of stuff about public trust. The public trust us with this money. Spending money that we haven't from reserves to pay for services that recur every year is not a good financial discipline. We have taken a vote earlier on today that would stop us from doing that going forward. So therefore, I think that it's really important that we do have this debate and we do make the right decision. And you know, going forward, we won't be able to make a financial decision or commitment like that without actually understanding the impact on the precept, which is good financial discipline. With regards to the hypothetical views of whether money will be spent or not by people, that the best indicator of what will happen in the future is what has happened in the past. And actually, if we go back to the past budgets, I've sat in various finance committees. The reason was it was cancelled was because it was severely overspent and the provider was not able to give us significant management reporting on that basis. So the people suggesting that it will not be spent is not accurate based upon what happened in the past. I don't understand what has changed in the community over the last 3 or 4 years, which would fundamentally change that position.
Okay, don't forget we're talking about suspending standing orders. We're not voting on the issue itself yet. Gary?
Thank you, Chair. The only new piece of information we've had is that the new provider, because it's a completely different provider, can be postcode accurate to actually check who is actually eligible or not eligible, because that was one of the things that was considered before. About 18 months ago, I travelled around several different community groups, residents associations, people's houses, knocking on doors, and swimming came up every time. When can we have swimming back? So there was a very popular, it was very high on some people's agenda that we provided this swimming. The fact that we keep turning back to we have no way of controlling this, we know that is not true, because it's a completely different provider who can provide those controls and can provide the cost controls.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Richard?
Yeah, just to make some clarification here. The reason why we cut free swimming in the first place, because obviously as a council we have to do a lot of due diligence. We have to find out whether the services that we're providing is for the people in our parish, and the provider, and I'll be clear about this, it's the same provider under a different name, but the same provider that's providing the free swimming. When we did ask them for information so that we can do our own analysis of the amount of people and the demographics of the people that were using. They could not provide us with certain information. So we was not clear as a council who was using it, from what part of the parish they were using it, whether it were people that were coming in from outside of the parish and using the free swimming service that we provide for our residents in our area. Our provider could not give us any information on who was actually using free swimming. Now, if we are providing free swimming for people in our parish, then we should, as a council, do our own due diligence and get the information from our provider of who is actually using the free swimming. They could not provide that. That's the reason why, and some of the reasons why we decided, and I think Councillor Kelly Wilson hit upon that as well.
Richard, can I just remind you, we're talking about the suspension of standing orders, not the item itself.
Yes, but of course, I just wanted to clarify that it is the same provider that is providing free swimming.
Right, Gavin?
I just want to remind councillors as well, while I can understand people have got different points of view, the idea that any overspend, hence the reason to open up this motion, will be funded by reserves. It's kind of conjecture at this point, because we've still got to discuss the precept and we've still got to discuss how we're going to be funding the budget completely. So I wouldn't like to suggest that just because we're going to keep swimming in the budget, or hence why we need to open this, that it's going to come from reserves. That's just something I think.
Okay. Sorry, Gary. Thank you very much. Right. Can Ethan and Gavin take their hands down, please? So those in favour of suspending standing orders, if they can vote now, please. Right, that's 5-4. Can you take your hands down now? Ethan, oh, I said, now those against.
Yeah, I wasn't able to vote, and my hand is being displayed as down on the vote, but have you counted it, please? Because I'm not in favour of breaking standing orders, but my hand thing seems to be going very funny and I can't get back into the system.
Okay.
Thank you. So I consider that to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and with Marie 7. So that is 7 against.
1, 2, 3. I've got 5. Oh, with Gary and
Marie.
That's 7. So that's more. So that's lost.
Yes.
Right. So, right. If we all take our hands down there. So we are looking then at. I've lost it.
So we're on well-being, I think.
Well-being. So we have the well-being budget at 24,300. Any comment? No, thank you. Staff costs, 407,406. Any comment? Okay, thank you. On page 15 now, 7476 Queensway and the library, 84,830. Any comment? Ed? You're mute, Ed.
Sorry about that. I believe we had talked about this previously, and it was discussed that this should be considered as an exceptional cost, and therefore it should come out of reserves. And in my view, that should come out of the. And I think we'll probably come onto this discussion towards the end. But I just want to make sure the councillors were aware of that previous discussion point. My view is that should come from the property and premises reserve.
If you remember, Ed, when I started, we were going to bring those items up at the very end when we're talking about the precept and how we fund it. Okay. Thank you. So any other comment? Can you take a hand down, Ed? Thank you. Council support services, 58,400. Any comment? No, thank you. Town council vehicle, 6,120. Any comment? No, thank you. Neighbourhood plan, naught. That's all in earmarked reserves. Any comment, by the way? No, thank you. The next one is Newton Lees Pavilion, and we're on to page 16, which is at 17,150. Is there any comment on that? No, thank you. And the last one is the market at £1,060. Any comment? No, thank you. That gives a total expenditure of 984,741 and a total income of 148,267, which gives a net expenditure of £836,204. So that completes that section of the budget process. Right, having agreed that lot, we now get really to a general discussion of the budget and a general discussion, and to go and to discuss the use of reserves and a vote on the overall budget. And we then whatever we agree there, we then transfer to the precept discussion. Right, anyone wants to kick off? Gavin, did you want to start?
I just want to say, is that total now changed because we've changed the Albert Street toilets?
It will do. It'll come down by 20,105. I'm just going through what was published. Okay, Gavin, thank you. Right, who wants to kick it off? Well, can I give you some figures that I've worked out, and just to see what you then want to discuss. The draft budget left a deficit of £13,733, and that's shown on page 37 of your on the agenda. Now, the use of reserves is planned at 104,680. So no matter what happens, you are already proposing that planned raid on reserves. Now, can I just go through now what we as members have agreed to and what we are considering doing in the next financial year? And we've already said in the past and at previous meetings that these will come from reserves. The town deal, £50,000. The website, no one has put a detailed figure on it. I've put a figure of £20,000 on. The income figures for some of the facilities are optimistic, and I believe that it could be another £10,000 would be lost. We've also suggested a carbon audit. That was £15,000. Manor Road lockup's got to be knocked down. There's no budget for it. £5,000. The gateways, I don't know what finally came out, but there was a figure of £10,000 elicited for that. The last meeting, we also agreed that we suggested that there could be as much as £5,000 for the Canals Trust, and also community engagement, which I think has now been agreed that it won't be an additional figure on that sum. Now, if you add that lot up, the money that you are proposing to take from reserves, on not on my figures, this is on figures that you have suggested as members, comes out at £221,680. The total general reserve is 226,716. You leave yourself about £5,000 in the general reserve. Do you genuinely think that that is a sustainable budget for this council to face? This council has existed since 2001, 20 years, and it's taken 20 years to build that reserve up. And this council is considering getting rid of that surplus, that reserve, in 1 year. You may say that, okay, some of it's exceptional. That's only half of it. The other half is stuff that you want to consider. If the budget is agreed as it's now proposed, I cannot see how this council can sustain itself in future years. Right, that was the comment that I wish to make. Now I'm going to throw it open to those that want to come in. I've got two so far. Ed, you're first. Can you start?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with your summary of the reserves figures. All of that you have assumed is coming out of the general reserves. You've assumed that there will be at the current level it's 226. We haven't taken into consideration the fact that we have a planned we're projecting an underspend this financial year. Now that 104,000 that we talked about, some of that could come from the over £400,000 earmarked reserve for property and premises, say for George Street, and I think it would be fairly safe that the Queensway premises should be on there. You mentioned the council has been here since 2001. I would also point out that actually the deal that we had on the Queensway premises was a bad deal, and we are now dealing with the consequences of that. And our decision to move to the library. Now that's a decision. We moved to the library and we understood the risks involved in that. But I just wanted to point out that the Queensway premises was not necessarily the best financial decision of this town council. I think so. So if we take that 104,000, and we consider that if George Street came out of the George Street budget, and the Queensway came out of the premises budget, that would only leave the shortfall on the income of Newton Lees to come out of the general reserves. And I think that is perfectly acceptable. It's a unique situation that we are in. And I hope from the second half of this year into 2022 that actually things will be better there. And I think it's a genuine reason why we have general reserves, to cover some of those things where we are in exceptional circumstances, such as a pandemic where we are losing income on our building. The other items you've mentioned, so one of them being the town's fund, that would only be the contribution that we're thinking of making. Would that be a one-off contribution? And again, I think that would be reasonable to come from general reserves if those other items come from other reserves. We have, including the earmarked reserves, we have over £1 million in reserves. So we need to have a strategy on what we do with those reserves, and we aren't going to go bankrupt if this budget is agreed with considering those items. So I take a slightly different position to Councillor Ely, yeah, I feel we are in a sensible place in terms of what we are doing with our reserves, and I also think actually this budget, even if we had the toilets in there, actually isn't a bad budget considering the fact that we have lost 1% on our precepts due to the recalculation of the base for expected loss of income from the council tax base. We've had a reduced grant, and we are now doing more as a council. Actually, I think we've come out with a really good budget if we included the toilets as well, because all things considered.
Thank you, Ed. Ethan.
I don't profess to be a financial expert, Chairman, but one thing I know for sure is that, you know, if I'm in the black the day before payday, I'm happy, and if I'm in the red, I'm not. What's being proposed is that we enter going into next year being in the red, and that's something I don't think is financially sustainable. I don't agree with reserves being used to fund ongoing revenue costs. They've got to come from the revenue budget, and I get that there are kind of underspends, but all that's happening is that we will be moving a difficult conversation around costs from now until next year. And potentially in that intervening period, there's going to be an election, and it could be that lots of people in the community decide that we've made the wrong decision, and some of us might not be here. I do not want to move that difficult conversation from now until next year, which is why I've made this, I and other members of the Finance Committee have made this proposal that our starting point should be that we look at the precept when introducing any new service. Of course, I now think it's appropriate to have that conversation around what if anything happens with the precept for the new services. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Anyone else want to come in? No? Okie doke. Right, so...
Sorry, Chair.
Councillor Graham.
Richard?
Oh, Chair. Yeah, I just want to agree with Ethan regarding the finance. If you're running your own business and you have to look at your budgets and your forecasts, if anybody is running their own business, they wouldn't be running it at a loss. That's what we are all responsible for the public finances. We are all, as councillors, responsible for the incomings and outgoings of all monies to do with this council, and I would not be running my business at a loss. That's for sure. You definitely would be looking at your outgoing expenditures. You'd be looking at breaking even, and you wouldn't be looking at keep dipping into your own back pocket to fund the business 24/7. So that's my opinion. I wouldn't be running a business at a loss. And we have to find ways of, like all councils and central government and everybody else is looking at ways of saving money and balancing their books. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Well, if there's no other discussion on the budget, I would suggest we then move to item 6, which is to set the precept.
Yeah, Keith, actually, we've talked about the individual lines in the budget, but we haven't voted overall on the whole budget as a whole, and we haven't voted on how we would manage those items that you've suggested for reserves. So I do feel that we actually do need to have a full vote on the budget. Otherwise, actually, Clark, could you give some advice on this? Would we be, if we haven't voted on the budget as a whole, would we be able to go to item 6?
I think you should vote on the budget as a whole, but it may be that you wish to, and you need to approve it as a whole. It may be that you wish to discuss the precept, the relative use of precept and reserves at this stage, if that's going to influence your decision about the budget. But you will need at some stage to vote on the budget as a whole and on the use of reserves and on the precept. So you'll need those votes to take place.
Right, thank you, Delia. Right, so taking your point, Ed, we'll take a vote on the whole budget as it stands, and I will ask for a recorded vote because I want to make it absolutely clear who is spending the money.
What's in the toilets?
And so the excuse me, the budget is that as published less 20,105 20,100 and whatever it is.
5.
Yeah. So minus 20,105. 990. I make that £816,099. Is that okay? So Ken, I'll propose that as a budget. Is there a seconder for the budget, please?
I'll second that, Keith.
Thank you, Ron. Right. We've had the discussion about the budget, so I'll go straight to the vote. Those in favour of recommending accepting the budget. That's it. Six. That's, I make that six.
Councillor Graham, Councillor Ely, Councillor Hayne, Councillor Stevens, Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Graham, and Councillor Carnum.
That's seven.
Oh, I meant that's 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 6. Beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 6. Right.
Sorry, Dee, could you go that through that? Can we do a
Yeah.
roll on it? Because actually, I think I'm a bit confused as to different hands that were up and down.
Okay. So according to me, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, those who voted in favour of the budget were Councillor Ely, Councillor Hayne, Councillor Stevens, Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Graham, and Councillor Carnum.
There's something gone right. We're down to 5 again now. We had 6 before.
Yes, but the hands haven't all gone back up again. But those Councillor, those would.
Councillor Kelly Wilson.
Did Councillor Kelly Wilson vote in favour of the budget? Okay, I've got Councillor O'Rourke now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6. That's 7 now. 1, 2, 3.
Oh yes, because Councillor O'Rourke has now appeared on the screen, which I think
8.
we might have been missing. No, 7, according to
8
me.
now.
And Councillor Kelly Wilson, right? That's 8.
Chairman, for this important vote, can I suggest that we go through the photos in the order on your screen and actually ask people for their vote?
Yeah,
That's what I was going to say, Ethan. Yeah.
Right. Right. I'll start it. I'm in favour. Ron?
I'm in favour.
Terry?
In favour.
Michael?
In favour.
Richard? Richard? You're on mute. Mute, Richard.
In favour.
Right. Aisha, are you in favour?
I'm in favour.
Sorry?
Yes, I am.
In favour, thank you. Ed?
I am against because of the toilet decision.
Right, okay. Eamon?
Favour. In
Ethan?
favour.
In favour of the budget.
Gary?
Against.
Against. Gavin?
Against because of the toilets.
Right. What's the numbers, Delia?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favour and 3 against. Did we have Marie's vote though?
I was just about to say you haven't asked me. I'm against also because of the toilets.
I'm terribly sorry, Maria. I didn't see you come
How
through.
can you forget my lovely face?
My apologies again, ma'am. So is that 12, Delia?
No, we should 13. We should have.
So we're 1 short.
9, 10, 11.
Me.
12.
Sam.
Bam.
I'm against because of the toilets as well.
Right.
3, 4, 5. So I've got 6 against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, 5 against.
Ed Hume. Oh, it's Ethan. Ethan, were you in favour? You were in favour.
I'm in favour of the budget.
Yeah, I apologise. So it's 5 against, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 in favour.
So it's 7, 4, 5 against.
Yep.
Right, so that's carried. So the budget is agreed at that figure of £816,099. Right. Was there another vote we had to have, Delia?
Well, now you need to move on to the
Precept.
Precept and reserves, use of reserves and precept.
Right. Now on page 41 of the document, we've got the precept calculation information. And I'll open it up for discussion of who wants to start it off. Terry, did you want to start?
No.
No, right. Does anyone want to start it off?
I'll start off.
Okay, Ed.
I was actually going to suggest that we have a 2% rise to cover the costs in if we have the toilets in there. What we have seen this year, we have seen a reduction on the base by 1%. We've also seen a decrease in the grant, and we're seeing an increase in what we're providing for services. However, given the decision on the budget, I no longer have a view on that on a 2% rise, which I think would be reasonable. It will be below inflation, and it will be below similar rises in other parish councils in Milton Keynes, and lower than Milton Keynes Council tax precept rise, council tax rise. So 2% for me was going to be reasonable, and it would have put us into a stronger position for next year's discussions. But given how the budget decision has gone, and our decision to cut to cut the toilets without consultation, we have predetermined the consultation. I no longer will be voting on the precept decision, and will no longer be making any proposals on it.
So you're going to abstain?
I will be abstaining on the precept decision.
So you're ducking out of any responsibility, Ed?
I did have responsibility, but with the way the budget has shaped up and the decisions of this council, I will no longer be voting on the precept because I will be abstaining from it.
So you're taking your ball away and playing somewhere else?
I'm not taking my ball anywhere, Keith, and I don't think this is I've made my point. It's not an inquisition on my view. If you want to debate the view, we can go backwards and forwards, but not in this way. I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, anyone else want to come in? Is there any proposal from anyone on?
I think Ethan wanted to come in.
Ethan.
Thank you, Chairman. I just feel that I have to challenge one of the views that has just said, because I certainly did not put a proposal for that predetermined any consultation. But what I clearly did was, I'll give you an example. If we turned around and ask a whole school room full of children if they want to have an ice cream, are they going to say yes or no? The majority of them are going to say yes. What I proposed was that clearly we cannot ask the community if they want to keep the toilets because they're unaffordable to do so. We have difficult decisions to make, and actually I think that the community have to have it put to them in the view of it would be lovely to keep the toilets open, however they are unsustainable, and would you rather that money was spent on toilets, which is increasing every year, or would you rather it was be spent on well-being? I do not feel that that was a predetermination of the consultation, but actually it's putting it out to the community, the difficult decision which we need.
Ethan, no, we can't go through the discussion again. We're on to the precept now. I understand your concerns, but we've got to stick to trying to agree a precept. Gavin.
Please, could I just speak before Councillor Bedford speaks?
Yeah.
Can I just remind the council that there are recommendations from the Finance Committee on the use of reserves, which were embodied in their minutes previously, so those will need to be voted on at some stage.
Right, Gavin.
I was going to put forward a 2% precept increase as well, based on the budget with the toilets. But however, I've decided that I'm still going to do so. So I am going to propose for a 2% precept rise. I think that a rise in precept is going to be inevitable, be it this year or next year or years to come. And whether it's now or down the line, it's our responsibility to make them as pain-free as possible for our constituents. And we know that we're going to be having less income. So, for example, the Milton Keynes Milton Keynes Council grant is getting smaller and smaller. Therefore, I think a small rise now of 2% will negate the need for a sharper rise either next year or in the future. And also, I think with a 2% rise, members of our community will only see a small increase in their contribution. Indeed, 87% of properties will only see a rise of roughly between £1.90 and £2.53 over the year. That equates to between 3.7p and 4.9p a week. So again, my calculations were initially based on the Albert Street toilets being the full cost that was in the original budget, but I actually still think it would be prudent to go for a 2% rise. And I hope someone can second me.
Sorry, Gavin, can I just confirm what percentage rise?
2%.
2%, thank you.
So bringing the precept up to 732,147.
Yeah, so the precept would be £145.
Yes, Band D.
Okay. Right. Ron first.
Can you hear me, Keith? Or am I still muted?
Yep.
Oh, you can hear me okay, yeah. Yeah, I second that what Gavin said, because I was going to say exactly the same. You know, I'm not happy about the toilets the same as a lot of other people. But in the future, it's better to have a smaller increase than a major big one, because I feel that within a year or so's time, you're going to have more flats and more houses to get more council tax in anyways. So they're looking at a few hundred houses at Newton Lees. You're looking at Albert Street when that starts. You're looking where the old job centre used to be. So they'll all be paying council tax. So I think a small increase now will ease the situation that we're under, and we may not have to increase it in years to come. That's all I want to say, guys. Okay.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else wanted to come in? Right. So do I have a seconder for that proposal of a 2% increase in the...
I did second that.
Ron's just seconded that.
I do beg your pardon, Ron. Right.
And Councillor O'Rourke wishes to speak.
Okay, Eamon.
No, it was a mistake.
I was just going to second it.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay, Eamon. Right, and Gavin, did you wish to come back for a final comment?
No, I think I made all my points relatively clear. Well, I hope I did. If anyone hadn't, I think someone would have said something by now.
Okay, thank you. Right, those in favour of a 2% increase in precept, making the Band D average £145. Those in favour? Right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. Is that 12?
No, no, 13, Marie.
13?
13.
Yeah, Marie.
My mind
lost you again, Marie.
Councillor Humes.
In the debate.
So those against, right, can we take the hands down now? Whoops. Right, those against? Those abstaining?
Well, that's carried.
Right. Which way did you vote in the end, Ed?
My mind was changed by the debate, thanks to Councillor Bedford, and I voted for.
Oh, for. I didn't say it. Sorry, Ed, I missed that. Right, that concludes the item 6. Thank you, Chair. That should be it now.
Thank you, Chair. Keith for Finance. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the councillors for their debates and opinions and thoughts. Sorry. Moving on to item 7, to ratify the list of payments. Delia.
Yes, you should have that on page 45 and going forward. It's we missed this from the last Finance Committee meeting, so it's been brought to this meeting instead, just to approve those payments made or due to be made.
So can we approve these payments? All in favour?
Thank you. I think that's carried.
Is that everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
Anybody against? Anybody abstentions? Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 8 on the agenda, to review and comments of any planning applications for the Town Council submitted to Milton Keynes Council.
Isn't it the calendar?
Calendar
Item
next.
Calendar.
Oh,
We've got the annual calendar at item 8.
Item 8, to review and approve the calendar of meetings.
Yeah, if I could just speak to this briefly, please, Chair. I know that members have been wanting to change the committee structure for next year and perhaps rearrange the way that meetings take place. But we do really need to have some dates in the diary in order to sort of take us forward. So we've prepared a calendar which we would commend to you. The annual meeting of the council has been put on a Thursday in May, and that is in order to allow time after the election for that meeting to take place in a timely way immediately after the election. The one item that is not on the calendar at the moment is the annual meeting of electors, which has to take place between the 1st of March and the 1st of June. It's not actually a town council meeting, but it's a requirement that an annual meeting of electors takes place. And we need to, and we've had advice from NALC to hold that before the 6th of May this year, because that's when the remote meeting legislation changes. So the proposal would be to hold that meeting either on the date, the last Tuesday in April, which is the 27th, and instead of, or on the Thursday of that week, but that is very, very close to the elections, which may be inconvenient for some. So the alternative is to hold it at the end of March, again on a Thursday. We can hold it, as I say, between the 1st of March and the 6th of May. So if we have it in March, although that's earlier than usual, it does mean that it won't interfere in any way with the elections. We could have it at the very beginning of April, but again, it would have to be perhaps not on a Tuesday. So I don't know if anyone's got any views on that.
Has any councillors got any views on these proposed dates?
I can't do a Thursday.
Who was that? Sorry.
That was Aisha. Can't do Thursdays.
Has anybody else got any views on the calendar of dates, or can we approve the recommendations?
So I might have just missed something. Apologies for that. I just had to leave the screen for a moment. The May meeting, we were saying the Finance Committee is on the 11th. Yeah, I'm a bit. The election will be on the 6th of May. So will we actually have a Finance Committee for the 11th of May? Apologies, I might have missed what was said because I had to leave the room for a moment.
No, there shouldn't be a meeting on the 11th. That finance meeting needs to be taken out of the calendar, because the first meeting that we should be having is the annual meeting on Thursday, the 13th of May. So the HR committee and the 4th and the 11th, those meetings need to be removed from the calendar. Because that will be too close to the election and immediately after the election.
Okay.
So those need to come out.
So barring those dates, are we quite happy with the calendar that's been put forward? All in favour?
Yeah.
All in favour? Could have your hands up, please?
Okay, and perhaps I'll come back to you with a proposed date for the annual meeting of electors.
Aisha?
I think people were just voting, Chair. I think we can move on now to
Thank you very much for
the
that.
planning.
So item 9 on the agenda. Planning. To review the comments from the planning applications within the town council submitted by Milton Keynes Council. Item 9.1, Westfield World Bletchley, proposed first floor side extension with carport. Any comments from councillors?
Sam has a hand up.
Sam? No?
That was a mistake.
So is that no comment? No comment?
No. Yeah.
So item 9.2, to appeal a notice for Pink Planters 2 Watling Street, Bletchley, Milton Keynes, provisions of a storage container retrospective planning. Any comments for any members? I've got Ed, who, can you come in?
Yeah, my comment would be that we should reiterate our initial comments to the which we made to Milton Keynes Council, and we should make them to the planning inspector who's looking at the appeal, and we should make those comments again.
Councillor Ron Haynes.
Yeah, I agree with Ed, because we did turn this down last time, and they just put it up there and just asked for retrospective planning permission. You know, we already said no to it once because of the look, and we didn't know what they was putting in there. You know, and they've never. And I've double checked on our paperwork, and they still don't tell us what they're putting in there. You know, so it's just retrospective planning. And this is what they do in Pink Panthers all the time. They build something, and you say no, then they build something a bit bigger, and come back for retrospective planning. This has got to stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Kelly Wilson.
I was going to say some of the point about what's in the inside the containers is not a planning issue, but I kind of accept the other point that, that there seems to be a lot of retrospective applications for this site, and the council has previously determined that we did not agree, or we objected on the basis that the containers are an incongruous feature in the street scene and adds visual clutter to the site, and therefore it's contrary to various policies of Plan MK. And I don't think anything has changed, and agree with Councillor Hume's point that we should continue to object against this application, or object against the appeal.
Councillor Sam Brown.
I agree with Ethan and everybody else who agrees. We need to put a stop to Pink Panthers doing retrospective planning. Maybe the planning department can give them advice, but I'm dead against the containers being where they are and how high they are. So I think we should put in another objective against it when the planning comes up.
Can I just make the point, Chairman, that retrospective planning applications are not illegal. They are permitted. I know members will have their own views about them, but the planning system as it is at the moment does permit retrospective planning applications. However, what we're looking at here is an appeal. So what I'm hearing is that councillors wishes to reiterate our representations made on the last occasion. Are you happy for these to be made in writing, or do you wish there to be representation? I think we're only being offered, actually. I think we're only being offered to make them in writing at the moment. So you're happy for me to make the representations on the council's behalf?
So is everybody happy for the clerk to make representation on the council's behalf? All in favour?
Very happy to receive any suggestions from any members who may have particular views they wish to be included.
All in favour of that proposal for the clerk to make representation on the council?
Carried, I think. Yes,
Is that
carried. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does any council want to make any comments for Delia to put forward? So we're quite happy for her to make the representation. That's fine. Okay. Moving on to item 10, to approve the draft response to the MHGLG consultation on permitted development rights due to be closed on the 28th of January. Delia.
Yes, as I explained to councillors before the meeting started, for various reasons I've not been able to complete this questionnaire before tonight's meeting. It was always going to be quite tight, and due to circumstances beyond my control, I haven't been able to complete the online questionnaire in time for the to show you a draft for tonight's meeting. Therefore, I think the council's got two options, either not to comment or to delegate me to comment on your behalf, or I mean the other alternative is to for individual councillors to make comments. I can only apologise for the fact that I didn't get a chance to complete this questionnaire, which is it's not really that it's very lengthy, but I wasn't clear about the council's policy on all aspects of the response, and I just didn't have time to seek the advice that I would need to make a draft.
Has any councillors got any comments to make? Are we happy for Delia to make comments on our behalf as a council? All in favour of? I think that's everybody.
That's carried.
Okay. So you're okay to make representation, and
yes, if anyone's got any particular points they'd like to draw to my attention, please email me. I've got to get the response in by 28th, which is day after tomorrow.
2 days time then. So moving on to item 11, to consider the S106 funding available for phase 7B Newton Leeds. I was going to ask Councillor Kelly Wilson to kick us off.
Yeah, so obviously I think we've already agreed to support the application, and there is a paper before the council with regards to taking suggestions for section 106 monies, which is obviously planning gain for the further development. And just wanted to say that actually this phase 7B, due to efficient use of the site, they have already in the previous phases, they have already obtained 1,650 dwellings, which was what the outline planning permission was for. They now want to create an extra 113 residential dwellings in a mix of 2-bed apartments and 2 to 4 bed houses. So I think that in terms of section 106 considerations, there are many, but 2 spring to mind. One, I think that the provision of equipped areas of play in Newton Lees compared with other of the major developments in Milton Keynes is woeful, and they are kind of quite little items, whereas if you go to other kind of major developments, they are big, massive neighbourhood parks. We don't really have anything like that here in Newton Lees. So I would like to see further investment into the equipped areas of play. And secondly, adjoining this area, phase 7B, which on a map, it is the triangular shaped area of the site that is right at the side, at the western side of the landfill, going up against the footpath that goes to Newton Longville. And this is the footpath that went from Bletchley to Newton Longville has been diverted through Newton Lees and onto this footpath, and it's in a much better state right through Newton Lees until you get to the point adjacent to this site where actually it's in a really bad state. And it's quite a nice walk to undertake during the summer, and you can go and get a drink in the pub in Newton Longville and come back. But actually it's really difficult to get through, and I think needs further investment. And I think that we definitely as a council, thinking about climate change and recreation and leisure activities, definitely want to be encouraging people to make the best of these facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ethan. Anybody else got any comments? Councillor Stevens.
I agree with Councillor Kelly Wilson. I've been up there a number of times on various running activities, and it's sort of not in keeping. So you've got a lovely area of well-kept pathways, and suddenly it is a struggle. So if you are a person who was less mobile, you may struggle a bit.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Delia, what's our position now to?
Well, I think if there are no other proposals for specific projects, then I will go back to the planning officer and convey these the feedback that this is what would make the development more acceptable in terms of what would make it acceptable in terms of planning gain to the community.
Okay.
If that's the wish of the council.
Is everybody quite happy for Delia to make comments on our behalf on this? All in favour? I think that's everybody. Ron? Gary? In favour, yeah. That's carried. So we're moving on to item 12 on the agenda to review and decide the proposals from citizen advice. And Delia, do you want to just give us some quick background on this?
Jill's done the work on this proposal, so I think it's best for her to introduce it.
Yes, obviously at the last full council meeting, we agreed to use the existing budget to help fund some additional remote working for CAB. This is their proposal for the ongoing year. And it is, as you will see, it's still appears to be a remote service. I don't think they envisage much face-to-face going on at the moment. But these are to support them out of, I believe, our community engagement budget they come out of. And it's actually 5,850. I'm still waiting for confirmation or clarification, should I say, on the £750 worth of IT costs and a contribution to the software, whether that's something we've already paid for in the last contribution we made, or whether this is a different IT cost. But I believe these are ongoing costs for those things. It's the support of the IT that we agreed to pay for the last meeting. So this is the proposal from CAB from April onwards, and it's for them to be able to provide, as you said before, full access to residents 1 day per week. At a means that we have yet to decide, but until some of the budget is agreed, or this proposal is accepted, then we'll go through and talk about how we're going to do that. It's probably going to be with use again from Spotlight.
I think personally this is a very good service for people in our parish, considering health and well-being and mental health side of things. I think as a council we should be providing some services, especially out of Spotlight. It's a key area in our parish, so I'm quite happy to support this CRB proposal. Councillor Bedford.
Can I just confirm whether this is this 5,850, it would come under is it £8,000 that was already in the budget for CAB?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay, that's what I wanted to
Yes.
confirm. Yeah, cool.
Anybody else got any comments? Councillor Wilson.
So on page 80, there are some diagrams of what the service provision looks like, but the proposal does not appear to equal that. So, for instance, I'm looking at the presentation slide on page 80, which says post-COVID-19. What 20 to 25% of advice work will be delivered face-to-face, and when it will do so. 75% to 80% of advice work will be delivered via phone, email, web chat, or video call channels. If we go on to page 81, it says, we will deliver a remote access advice service for residents in your parish. And obviously that will be using the confidential video platform called Attend Anywhere. Now, clearly, we need to make sure that this service that we pay for is available to those that need it. And one of the items on page 80, which says, if the client is invulnerable or is in severe hardship or requires specialist intervention or it's complex, that it may be better for this to be dealt with in person post-COVID, but I don't really see that in the presentation. So I just would think we need some more clarity upon that within the presentation, because from my reading, it says we are going to be delivering everything via video.
Okay. I can get that clarification on the basis that I'm still waiting for the other IT costs to be clarified. They're not particularly quick at coming back because obviously at the moment they're, as you can probably imagine, very, very busy. So I can get a clarification on that and ask them to clarify the difference between the proposal and the diagram.
I think we also need something in the way of a service level agreement, because how are we going to know? It doesn't really say that, does it?
No.
How we're going to know what we're going to have back in terms of how many of our residents have used the service.
No, and I think that's the difficulty when it's going to be remote.
When it's going to be remote, but they must still be keeping records, postcode records and so on.
Yes, I would think they are.
I think we'd want to see something back in return for the funding, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Has any other councillors got any comments at this time? So Delia, so regards to the comments that Councillor Wilson has said and yourself, subject to that, are we going to be agreeing once we get the right information through from CIB?
Well, I think perhaps what you could do is say that in principle you're minded to continue with the service, but we await clarification of the details, if that's what you're prepared to commit to. And we're not committed until we've got all the details and you're satisfied. We can bring it back next month, but on the basis that in principle we're going ahead.
So are we quite happy for that to be a proposal? Do we need a proposal, Delia?
Well, it's a matter for councillors to decide.
So I propose that as a proposal to
Councillor O'Rourke, I think, wants to speak.
Councillor O'Rourke, you're on mute.
I'm just voting. That's all I was doing.
So
have we got a seconder on that? Keith?
We only seem to have 2 in favour of that. Would you like us just to withdraw it and bring it back next time then?
Do it again.
Do it again. Withdraw it and bring it back in February.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
So what are we doing? We're withdrawing it now?
Well, yeah, we'll bring it back. But there didn't seem to be commitment to committing to it in principle. So we'll withdraw it. We won't make a decision tonight, and we'll bring it back to the February agenda.
Let's do that then.
With more information.
Okay, so let's move on to item 13. To receive feedback from the Gateway Working Group that was held on the 21st of January. To agree the next steps. Councillor Wilson, do you want to comment on this to start off with?
So I think myself, the clerk, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Graham attended a meeting last week with regards to the gateways. I think that we've come up with some ideas. I actually think it's best to take you through them visually and talk about why those recommendations have been made. And I think that we, as a group, committed to bringing those proposals back to you in March of this year.
So that's what we're proposing to do. Are we quite happy for us to come back in March with full details? Is everybody happy for that to move forward with?
Yes, Chair, I can't see how we can do anything else.
Okay. All in favour for that to happen?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. Moving on to item 14 on the agenda, to consider a draft lease for continuation occupation of Spotlight premises on Seventine Court. Delia.
Yes, you may remember that the lease for our occupation of Spotlight expired some years ago, and we continued occupation of the building on the basis of a tenancy at will, i.e. the same terms as before, but without a formal lease document. Milton Keynes Council Property Department have been tidying up their work and are now in a position to offer us a more formal arrangement. And so this draft lease was sent to me with reference to the previous lease, was sent to me before Christmas with a 9-month term taking us to November in the current year. 9 months, 10 months, 11 months. Which seemed a very short term, bearing in mind that we're not expecting to be in the community, we're not expecting the community hub that will be built as a consequence of the regeneration to be available to the community until, well, we don't know when, but obviously it's a number of years away. Therefore, I asked Milton Keynes Council if we could have a longer term. I proposed a 3-year term, but bearing in mind that they would want to be in a position to deal with the Spotlight building as soon as there is some community space. I suggested that a 6-month clause was included, which allowed them to give 6 months notice if there was if they could provide alternative provision for the services that we were delivering in the community hub. And that this is the draft lease that has come back on that basis. So really, I've shown it to our solicitor. He doesn't have any concerns about it. So you can see the variation clause is at the end, and really it's a matter for you to decide as a council whether you're happy for this lease to be signed. Happy to answer any questions that you might have, if I can.
Councillor Ron Haynes.
No, sorry, I didn't realise my hand was up. Sorry.
Councillor Wilson.
So reading through the lease, can I ask, because this could be a very easy question, otherwise it could get complicated, and it might not need to be. Has the landlord demanded any rent? Because the payment of the rent terms seem that it would actually cost us more to process if they demanded the rent.
No, we don't pay any rent. No, they've never demanded any rent. No.
Councillor Haynes. Councillor Ely.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, yeah, well, I noticed in the agreement that there's a clause which says that they will provide us with alternative accommodation when they take this one away. So in all honesty, the terms of the lease are almost irrelevant, because if they close that lease, they've got to give us something else. So I think the deal for us is quite nice. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
I mean, Delia, would we have to go back after 9 months and get another lease from them?
No, because they've now extended the term. So if you look at the very beginning, they've extended the term until for 3 years, as I requested. So it's been extended for 3 years. But obviously, if the community hub is not built and they're not able to provide alternative accommodation, then we would have to go back and ask for an extension of the term. But from what I'm hearing at the moment, it sounds as though they'd be in favour of that, of providing that. Councillor Weimer wants to speak.
Councillor Wyman.
Sorry, just querying. So would they then put you into the Spotlight's not been put into the planning, has it?
Spotlight is due for demolition, so that's what will happen to that building. And
but what I'm saying is, when they said they say that they give you an alternative, so will they automatically just give you the community hub, or would they offer you?
No, they won't automatically give us the community hub. But what I think they're saying is they'll give us space to deliver any services that we are delivering from Spotlight.
So basically, now, they could say they could give you space throughout the community hub, but not necessarily give you the community hub.
They won't give us the community hub.
I don't think. Spotlight put in. We can't get the Spotlight put into the planning through that. No.
No. No.
Okay.
So once Spotlight gets demolished, that's technically the town council not represented on the lakes unless we take up space in the new community hub. That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
That's what we're talking about, yeah. And obviously the town council may have different, aspirations at that time. Who knows? Because we don't exactly know when that date's going to be. And we don't know how
it would still be nice to have a presence on the lakes.
Exactly, and that's what we're trying to preserve.
Absolutely. Yeah. So are we quite happy for us to sign, is it to sign the lease, Delia?
Yes, if members are happy.
Can we have a show of hands, all in favour for us to move forward with the lease arrangements? I think
that's everybody, I think, in favour. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Item 15 on the agenda, just getting in time, to consider the council policies for acceptance of donations and specifically a request of donations memorial bench on the community orchard.
Yeah, so I think this has happened once before. The town council has been offered, a member of the community has asked if they could place a memorial bench in the community orchard in memory of a loved one who has died. And I think the council has on a previous occasion allowed this to happen. I just wanted to draft up a policy for the council to consider on this, and I had hoped that I would have had it ready by tonight, but in view of previously alluded to circumstances, I haven't been able to get it ready. But I think there are a few things to consider that ensure that, donations are always welcome, but nevertheless there are issues to consider. And that is that if you accept the wish to buy a memorial bench, I think it is important that it is a donation and it is donated to the town council, and therefore the town council has ownership of it, so that it can be moved and it can be maintained and it can be anything appropriate can happen to it. There also needs to be clarity for the donor about what the council will and will not do. How will they maintain it? Will they revarnish it every 6 months or every year, or that kind of thing? So I think there needs to be some kind of clarity about a written agreement. Otherwise, in my experience, disputes can be extremely problematic. And looking at this particular case, drew me to think about the potential donations that may come from George Street as well. And I think it would be as well for the council to have a really clear policy about donations, what it will and won't accept. Because some gifts which may on the face of it appear to be a benefit to the community can in fact turn out to be a liability if we haven't made appropriate arrangements for their maintenance and for their ultimate disposal. So I don't know if members have got any feedback to give me. I'm happy to sort of do some more work on this policy document. With regard to the bench, I think what I'm in this particular instance, I'm asking council if they are minded to give permission in this instance for the bench, and if they are happy for the donor to choose the design in consultation with the council, and also choose the, I would expect the council to want to have sight of the inscription plaque, just to make sure that it's appropriate, which I'm sure it will be. And then personally, I would prefer if the council installed the bench rather than the donor. And so I just want clarity really about what members feel about that, because I'd like to process this particular request in a timely way for the benefit of the resident who's requested it, and then produce a policy to follow.
Okay. Councillor Wilson.
I was going to say, I think in the last bit of your the points you raised, it did come up, but I think for me, I was thinking of two issues that need to be thought of in the policy. One, with regards to any kind of inscriptions or designs, we would consider to be in line with our equality and diversity policy. And that anything wasn't something the council might not want to be there. And also I think we need to kind of cover off, and I'm sure that the current donor is absolutely fine, but also talking about in other council areas, they've had statues or things donated from people who subsequently in today's thinking might not have been considered fit or proper for that to be there in the first place. And I think that in terms of any policy, we need to kind of have a policy on what we would do if anything came out with regard to that in the future.
Okay, Councillor Ron Haynes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, great. Yeah, as Councillor Kelly Wilson said, but I feel what we should do is just say to people that it's benches only, and we will place them for the simple reason that health and safety, because if someone puts them in, somebody's uncle's, sister's, brother's, second cousin puts it in, and someone else comes along and sits on it and breaks their leg, we're liable. So therefore, we should be the ones to put them in, but also we should also stick that nothing else other than benches should be allowed in our parish. Then we won't fall into the trap that other people have made with statues in the near or distant future. And if the orchard becomes too big with seats, we can say, well, you've got Leon Reckitt, put a seat in, So I think we should look carefully of how we word it, to keep it kind to the people that are bereaved. And also we should cover our backs as well in case of anything going wrong in the near or distant future. That's basically.
Okay, thank you. Councillor O'Rourke.
Yep. We have a load of benches over at the Shuttleworth collection at Old Warden that we wish we'd never allowed to be put there because the maintenance for them gets out of hand. And so we've now stopped it. We don't have any more benches put out, especially outside. There's a couple inside that are easier to look after, but the ones outside with the weather and that, it becomes too expensive to maintain them. And I wouldn't have them at all, personally.
Okay, Councillor, thank you. Councillor Hume.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do need policy on this. I think Councillor O'Rourke has stolen my thunder a little bit about the issues about maintenance. I think we do need to understand that, and also then how long are we expecting that bench to last, and actually are we then thinking about the cost to replace it in the future? And given the conversation on our new policy regarding about funds coming and considering the precept, I do think it's wise that we consider how we will fund the maintenance of them going forward.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councillor Ely.
Yeah, Chair, I'm in favour of these types of donations, but under council's control. And one way of doing it is to ensure that the council purchases and installs the equipment, not just benches. There are other things as well that people might want to do, and also to approve the wording of any memorial plate that may be used. In that way, you can control the quality of the goods and the quality of the installation. And at the end of its useful life, if the council then owns it, they can take it away and dispose of it. And therefore, maintenance normally tends to be reduced. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Stevens.
I agree with the other councillors. Just one question: is there any donations in terms of a maintenance fund that the donor could provide, not just the asset, but also say, well, the upkeep of it over 3 years or 4 years would cost this much. Maybe they could consider a donation in terms of keeping it maintained.
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of policy that you often get with cemeteries and memorials and benches in cemeteries. That there's often that requirement or that opportunity. So we could look at that as well. I mean, just to make one point, we only have one bench in the community orchard, and it would be quite nice to have another bench. I think it would be quite nice, but there is the issue of having a proliferation, obviously, and having too many. But yes, we could look at that from a maintenance point of view.
Councillor Ely, put your hand up again.
Just a point of clarification, Chair, is that when we put the boundary, or when we paid for the boundary signs to be put up, Milton Keynes Council charged us twice the amount of the purchase price for future maintenance. You may choose that's an option for taking Terry's point for future maintenance.
Okay, so Delia, do you want to finish off?
Yeah, I mean that's fine. That gives me plenty to work on. I think it may be that the costs prove prohibitive if we take all those things into consideration in terms of this donation, but I do think it is important that we think about the future and not just accept without thought. So we'll go back. We'll talk to the potential donor and I'll come back. Is council happy for this matter to be delegated to the Finance Committee?
Is council quite happy for that to be delegated to the Finance Committee?
This particular donation, I mean, I think the policy should probably come back to full council, but just this individual donation.
Yeah. All in favour to go to Finance Committee? Consideration. Is that everybody? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Marie? Yeah, thank you. That's carried in to go back to Finance Committee on this occasion. And that's the last on our agenda. Is that correct, Delia?
Yes.
On our agenda. Thank you very much, everybody live on YouTube, for attending this council meeting. And this is the end. Thank you very much.
Chair, please. Is it possible for us all to say best wishes to Councillor Sean Hewitt in his recovery?
Yeah.
William Hewitt.
Councillor William Hewitt.
Hewitt.
Sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Hewitt.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So hopefully William Hewitt's on the mend. I hope he has a speedy recovery.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you back at full council very soon.
Sorry, Sean Hewitt is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Just
Easily done. Easily done.
sorry. Yeah.
So are we,
Delia, could you send me William's address, please, so I can send him the Get Well card?
Yes. Yes, will do.